This is Agriculture Research Council of Nigerian Television. My name is Joshua Isha. The program is Back to Farm. In an effort to actually key into President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's agenda on declaring state of emergency on agriculture, is more reason why here on Agriculture Research Council of Nigerian Television, we're going nooks and crannies of Nigerians to make sure we bring to you programs that will make kick you back to farm. So if you're at home, probably you don't want to go into production of plants, you can go into production of animals. And today we are at a farm where we'll be looking at what it takes to rear a rabbit. And believe me, this is one in my hands, and you want to know what it takes to grow something like this, just stay glued as we are going to be talking to an expert who is going to be expatiating and telling us all you need to know on rabbitry. So stay tuned and make sure you don't touch your dial. Your name, sir?
Oh, my name is Amin Abdul Bar, and I'm currently serving at the so-called farm we are currently talking about the rabbitry today.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, what did you actually study in school?
I studied agricultural science at the University of Ilorin.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Agriculture science.
Yes, sir.
So now, we are the rabbitry now, basically.
Yes.
Tell us, in your own definition, what is rabbitry?
If we are talking about rabbitry, it's actually concerning a broad spectrum of it. It kind of relates to the rearing, management of rabbits, that care and medication, all aspects of the management and routine management also encompasses the rabbitry we are currently talking about today.
Okay. So now, someone wants to go into rabbitry, basically, what is the first thing one needs to know?
The first thing you need to know about rabbitry is selecting the breed that you actually want, and what are the reasons you are actually rearing the rabbits. Is it for mainly consumption or just for sale? That's it. Yes.
Now, someone who wants to go into rabbitry for selling, what should he look out for? What kind of breed does he go for?
You should look at the current market evaluation and analysis of the rabbits at first. So once the person have actually noticed, okay, what the consumers actually want, and that's selecting the larger breed. And currently we are looking at the larger breed. The one that is affordable right now are the foreign breed, which is the Hyla, which are Hyla, Hyla. They are actually very large, and they tend to be accepted by the majority. Yes.
Okay. You know, there are some breeds that give birth to minimum of 4.
Yes.
Minimum of 4, and some even less. What are the breeds that actually gives more?
It doesn't depend on the breed per se. It's from the male perspective of the amount of chromosome and the amount of gene it can actually give to the female. So minimum rabbit kits, it's 6. The minimum is 6. If we're having below 6, then there's definitely a problem, probably from the female or from the male.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you Just take us around the basic routine of a typical rabbit rearer in a day. Like how does your day goes out? It's morning, you're stretching your bed, and
Exactly.
then you're going to the rabbitry. Just take us through until the point where you
Oh,
leave.
okay. If we're actually looking at the routine management, the morning is very, very important. So the first thing I do early in the morning is look at the rabbits. Are there any problem? Is there anyone that is having issues from yesterday feed? I check the poop whether it is either soft or hard, or and it's from the poop you tend to experience the diseases inside. And rabbits are actually prone to coccidiosis, which is a very severe disease towards them because
Coccidiosis is common with
yes.
chicken. How
Yes.
come with rabbit is
If we're actually looking at the coccidiosis per se, it is available in all animals because since it's actually bacteria E. coli, so it is very very dangerous. If there is no proper management towards it, it's kind of severe to all animals per se. So it's part of the routine management you should always check on. Yes.
So when you check the pool,
So when I check the pool, I look at the four. Hope there's no any external parasite like mites, termites on the skin. Whether I will have to administer ivermectin, which is a broad spectrum subcutaneous medicine for the rabbits. So once I check all that, I look at the feed. Is there anyone that finished or didn't finish? Then I check their stomach. Is there any form of bloating? But that's bloating is a case of when there's excess air due to poor feeding or lack of exercise from the rabbits. Yes. So after that, when I've secured that all the rabbits are good, then I bring in the feed. Either give them the processed feed, which is in pelleted form. Then you can give them maize offal and then some grasses. So I usually make a timetable on their feeding routine. I either give them grasses for like the next 2 days, then I give them maize offal for the next 2 days. So just make it
like
like a
timetable.
yes, a timetable for them. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So like after that, I do the cleanup and I do a cross check again if there's any problem. Is anyone eating the food I've actually served, or is there anyone that is not eating it? Whether I need to provide additional means on reading out the effects, and then that's just the management of
Okay.
rabbits.
Now, growing up, probably I've seen people rear rabbits locally, where they get these grasses from the bush,
Yes,
and
exactly.
then feed them. And now, what I'm seeing is quite different from. So, what's the difference? Or is that still safe for the rabbits when you're
Um,
using strictly that?
Yes, if we're actually using strictly grasses, there's everything has an adverse effect. Too much of it is not good. Less of it is not good. So if we're looking at this, the aspect of feeding them strictly on grasses, giving them grasses give them more fiber. So it now depends on the type of grasses. Are you giving them hay? That's the dried form. Are you giving them silage? That's the wet one. So the wet one tends to have these most of these bacteria and insects that are kind of harmful towards the rabbits if there is no proper wash of the leaf. So it is always advisable that once you get the leaves, you should always and you select the good ones. There are some that once they take it, even though it is good for them, in the long run, in the next 2 or 3 days, they won't be comfortable again. So it causes bloating. That's the less more nutritious food and feed. So what I tend to advise people is that you should not give rabbits strictly grasses. You should tend to mix it in. Add a little bit of fruit to them, like carrots, some vegetables, like lettuce, spinach, and you can give them watermelon. They really like watermelon and they really love carrots. I believe that giving rabbits thorough carrot feed, just give them carrots, won't give them any problem.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. It won't give them any problem because it gives them a lot of vitamins and antibiotics and antibodies to their system. So I would recommend giving rabbits purely carrots. But the thing is that carrot is quite expensive. It's not everybody that can afford exactly. So once we are dealing with large population of rabbits, it is not advisable to be giving them strictly on carrots because you'll be looking at your costs. That's when you need to bring in the grasses and process pelleted feed. Yes.
Now, talking about their feeding, we know that when it comes to chicken,
Mm-hmm.
feeding is where the money actually goes
Yeah,
into.
exactly.
And then to some is the housing,
Mm.
maintenance, and their likes. In rabbitry now, where does the money go to? Is it the feeding? Where does the money really go to?
The money goes to the feeding and getting the type of breed you want. There are some certain breed of rabbit that goes up to 50,000, and that's the Flemish giant. It's not a common breed in Nigeria, but it is well sorted in other foreign
How big
countries.
does it grow?
Is oh my, I can't. How can I
Like how many
estimate it?
feet? Probably from from here now. Like,
From if I is as large as this.
wow.
Yes, it's as large as this. Yes, and adding the ears length to it is quite larger, and they grow bigger more than that. So it is well sorted meat. It is what people actually look for when they are trying to consume meat, and why people are actually looking for that breed because it has rabbit generally rabbit has this limit that has less cholesterol.
Yeah.
So it is always advisable for people 40 below to always consume rabbits because it has less cholesterol to the rabbits. So generally the cost goes to the breed of the rabbits and then the feed.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, when we came here, we were talking about they relate to
Yes,
you,
yes.
like they literally know
Exactly,
you.
yes.
How true and factual is that about rabbit knowing who feeds them and they're like literally knowing you?
Yeah, the rabbit literally knows me because I actually relate to them. Unlike I don't know how people relate to the rabbits, but once in a while, even not it's like every day, I tend to play with the rabbit a lot. I will just carry them in between the ears and towards the chin, below the chin. If you kind of like just pat them towards that area, they tend to be calm. Rabbits like being calm, they don't like being anxious. So before I carry them, I make sure I always do that. So once they know that I am the one that is coming, they don't need to be anxious for me to be doing all the exercises for them. I'll just pick them up and they'll recognize me. And at the same time, once you're taking care of a rabbit and it's so familiar with you, towards the time a female rabbit will get pregnant and she'll deliver, I can actually relate with the rabbits. I can pick up the child, and the mother tends to know my smell. She through her nose, so she knows that oh, I am the one that have touched a baby. I can examine the baby. Oh, is the baby alright? Is there any part of his limb that is dysfunctional, or is there any injury, or is he eating very well? Is the body temperature low? Because if the body temperature is low, I will notify that she's not feeding the baby properly, or probably is too weak to breastfeed from the mother. So relating with the rabbit is very very important.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about their birth. Like, how long does it take a rabbit from the day of conception to the day of delivery?
Uh,
And then how many times can it give birth in a year?
if we're looking at the gestation period, all rabbit gestation period is 30 to 31 days
Okay.
of gestation period.
Maximum of
Maximum of 31 days, and that's a month if we so if having a thorough timetable on the routine which the amount of rabbits should deliver in a particular year, the is now left to the farmer to select, oh, I want this particular breed, and I want this particular breed to course with so and so breed, so that I'll have this particular breed that is more sorted out in the market. So, and if we have enough rabbits, if we're having like 7 rabbits, and they are all females, then what we're going to do is that if I know that in a month a particular rabbit will give birth, and minimum 6, highest 12, so I can notify that multiplying with the minimum range. As if a particular rabbit give me 6 rabbits, then obviously from the 7 female rabbit I've delivered in a year, I can be having close to 200 rabbits. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can be having a year, I can have like towards 170 above in a year.
Okay. Now you talk about 7 female rabbits in like, let's say, in a cage. No?
In a cage.
Like how many males will you meet them with?
It is always advisable to use one male,
Why?
because the males.
7 wives for one man.
Yes.
Come on, man.
No, it's actually possible. It's possible, and it has been tested, but it is always recommended that 5 females for one male.
Okay.
Yes. And before selecting your male, you look at, is the male viable enough? Is he like the sire above all? You understand?
Okay.
So
How do you know? How do you tell?
I'll look at his strengths, I'll look at his viability, I'll look at his relationship with other males. Is he the more the strongest, exactly, the survival of the fittest? That's him. If I know that he has all the perspective of a rabbit I want to see in him, then I'll select him. I'll look at, oh, do I want this particular color, and which of the males have that color that is actually very good.
Does color really matters?
Color actually matters in the aspect of taking the rabbit as pets.
Okay, you're taking them as
Yes.
pets. Is that a way you can match them to give us particular
Yeah,
color?
particular color.
Okay,
Yes.
like you want a pure white. What do you
If I actually want the pure white, I'll bring a male pure white, then another female that has different color. So if the female has, let's say, 2 or 3 distinct features in the color, then I'll definitely know that 2 or 3 of the children will definitely have the male color. Then the female will have, the other children will have the mother. Then a particular one will have the mix of both the father, and probably the dominant gene from the father, which is actually exclusive, will actually show in one of the rabbits. Because there's a particular rabbit here that should I show? There's an example of
Okay, yeah.
yeah, there's an example of a dominant rabbit here. So let me come here.
Okay,
So
please, yeah.
I crossed the chinchilla
Yeah.
with the local breed of this male,
Yeah.
and it got me a dominant white. So if we're actually looking at it, the dominant white came from either the father side or from the mother, towards her.
This is a chinchilla.
Yeah, it's chinchilla. So, and this is the mix of the both the father and mother. You can see this type.
Okay.
It has both the mother's color
And
and that of the father. Then one has the mother's pure chinchilla color.
Okay.
So that's somehow, with having the particular type of color, we can actually get the people that wants to have rabbit as pets.
Yeah.
Because if we're actually looking at rabbit as pets, people like things that are actually cute, especially children. There are few adults that like cute things, but mostly children. I say that, oh, they want this particular color, then we can actually provide it for them. But if we're actually looking for the sorted out meats, we don't need the color, we don't need that.
No, showing it to camera.
Exactly.
Don't worry.
So we don't need all that. We just need the size. The size matters. So, and there are some people that also want to retail your rabbits. You give them in wholesale,
Yeah.
and then you distribute it to them. Exactly.
So now let's talk about rabbit markets
Okay.
in Nigeria right now.
Mm.
Of course, you said people from the ages of 40 is just watch out for the rabbit meat. What's the market like? The market viability of rabbits?
The market price, the market evaluation of rabbit right now is quite low.
Okay.
And the reason is that people don't have the necessary knowledge of how important the rabbit is. You know, when we're talking about limits, we are entering an age of where people actually want to be dieting, and they don't want red meat, they don't want this particular they don't want the goat meat, which has a lot of cholesterol in it. They need to go to the rabbit meat, which is very, very lean. Anybody can eat it. There's no adverse effect of eating lean meat, which is very palatable, it's delicious, is easy to cook, and the health benefits are off the chart. So it is very very good to always eat the rabbit meat. But the market, people lack the knowledge. Sorry to say, but people actually lack the knowledge of how important the rabbit meat is. And now that people are actually ignoring the bush meat, now that people are actually ignoring the bush meat since from the time of Ebola and
Yeah.
all those and the monkeypox, this and that, then they can actually look at more on the rabbits industry.
Okay.
Yes.
So now let's talk about the disadvantages in wearing this. I'm sure you should
Yes,
have
yes,
one.
yes.
What are basically the things to watch out about the disadvantages when it comes to
The disadvantages are having the necessary housing equipment, because rabbit tends to multiply, and the more they multiply, the more dirty the environment is.
Okay.
So once the environment is dirty, it brings a lot of diseases, and their poo is very nutritious to other insects and bacteria, so they tend to quickly grow fast. So one of the major disadvantages is the dirtiness and the housing equipment.
Okay.
If you can't maintain a good housing equipment, then you notice that your rabbits aren't comfortable. They'll just be sudden deaths of heart attack. Sometimes it's caused by stress, and diseases form quickly once the environment is not conducive enough and ventilated enough.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you talked about rearing them in an open space
Yes.
and in a cage. What's the difference, and why do you want to embark on?
The reason why I want to put rabbits on the bare floor is due to my personal preference. I like seeing animals free.
Okay.
You see the animals more. You see the animals' activities once they're in open range. The anytime the rabbits are cooped up in a cage, they can't run about, they can't jump, they can't kick their hinds towards the air, they can't thoroughly stretch, even though the cage is conducive enough. But I also want to put them just for them to play around and get familiar with the environment. And once the time reach, I can, because the farm tends to experiment a lot. We tend to move beyond our expectations. We don't like putting ourselves in a particular cage and just um um understand that this is what people are actually doing outside. We should also curb what people are doing outside. We tend to experiment a lot. So what we actually want to do is that we want to put them outside in free range. We want to see how they will produce once they're in the soil. So I need to test them whether they'll be able to adapt outside, irrespective of the foreign or the local breed.
Okay.
Yes,
Now, you happen to be the pioneer of this. You started this
Yes.
rabbitry yourself. How many did you start with, and like how much capital, roughly in your own estimation, did you use to have this cage, and the number of and the period you started, and how many are there now when you started?
The moment I started, the cost of the iron cage, because if you look at it, the iron cage was one of the is more sorted after, but it is quite expensive. Because if you are looking at just the length, a 1 yard of the flat bar cost of 2,500. So that's quite expensive. But looking at the long run, you know that you definitely get your market back. So we started with 2 males and 4 females, and then they multiplied to, they are currently 20 now, excluding the children. So with the children now, that's additional 15. So we're having close to 32 rabbits.
In a
Yeah.
period of
35 rabbits in a period of 2 months.
wow,
2 months, yes.
that's hard. So now, generally, what can you say to Nigerian who wants to go into rabbitry? What is the thing to look at?
I'll
Yeah.
I'll tend to tell my fellow colleagues trying to enter rabbitry that they should make a survey. They should firstly make a survey. They should look at who their consumers are, because majority of the rabbit farmers tend to like get lost once they don't see their customer and the market price, and probably when they bring it to the customer will like bring in another less price. They don't actually see the worth of the rabbit. So it's always very important to make a market survey to the rabbit farmer. Then once you've made your rabbit survey, then you now select your location. Oh, is this particular area, can I get my resources? Is this something I can walk to if I quickly need the grasses and the medication too, or the processed feed if I want to drive to that place? Is it too far or quite near? Is the water available enough? Is the market that I will sell the rabbits, is it close by or far enough? So you tend to evaluate all these exercises so that it won't make your work more complicated in the long run.
This is Agricultural Research Council of Nigerian Television. I'm sure you had a lot of insight when it comes to rabbitry farming in general. So if I were you, this is the station to always be with. Probably you are in the dark as to what business you can actually go in. With what this profession actually explained to you, you can literally start with 4 and maybe 2 males, and in less than 2 months you can end up having 32 rabbits, and that is early if you ask me. So come on, let's go back to food. So actually put food on our table and also to become economically viable. On that note, I say a very big thank you to the crew members who made it possible. Ahmed Bala, who was on the camera, and of course Escos, the likes of Fatih, and of course Bilkis, who also came through so we can actually make this come to you. Until some other time, make sure you have a splendid day. Bye for now.